Hi,
Yeah.
this is Raghu Markus and Mindrolling. So you should say it in unison together. Of course,
Say it at the same time.
you do need to say who you're with,
Yeah.
I think.
Hi, this is the Satsang Podcast, and I'm Bhagavan, and this is Dakota.
Hello.
And we are sitting here with Raghu
Well, wait
Markus.
a minute. You're Bhagavan Das and he's Dakota. What's
We're going
wrong?
by-
What about Gajanand? Why can't you could be JR in Dakota, but you can't be Bhagavan
we can
Das
have
in
both.
Dakota?
But he's already known publicly as Dakota. No one knows who the fuck
see, that's the
Gajan Das
thing.
is.
Yeah, okay, that's a very good reason. I like
We
it.
have to slowly infiltrate.
And then I'll pick up all those SEO keywords for people looking for the other Bhagavan Das. So
Oh, right.
there you go.
Okay.
So we really wanted to do a podcast with you in particular. You're a little bit like a podcast guru to us. Not quite the same relationship that you have with Duncan Trussell, but definitely take a lot of wisdom from you. And I personally have been editing your podcast for almost two years now.
Wow.
Actually, 2 years to 2 years and 3 weeks.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And
It's like in jail, just marking down tallies.
yeah. So I've really listened to like all of your podcasts now for the last 2 years.
You
at
listen to
least.
every single one because you
No,
edit them?
there's like 200 something. I didn't even know who Raghu was for the first 23 years of my life. So I don't even know if I have enough time to listen to all of his podcasts at this point.
Well, you do listen. I mean, you edit them, so you're listening somehow. Something.
Yeah, I'm getting some good wisdom from them too, you know, like just going, even if you don't listen to the whole thing, you just pick up little tidbits of wisdom that you apply to your life, you know?
Yeah. Plus, I tell you, oh, you should really listen to this because it's something I know you in particular would like.
Right.
I suppose I could do that with not the whole audience. I can't, but
Yeah, the whole audience needs to just listen to every podcast and buy all our stuff and
Well,
donate money. And
there is stuff, you know, there is stuff that's, I know that even with me, there's things that I gel with and I really want to know more about than meeting people and getting to know them, which is what I love on podcasts. You know, you meet people you never met before and you get to know them because of you want everyone to be able to get an idea of who they are and share what they've got. So, but the one that's in the top of my mind right now that really turned me on, and then I was telling people, look, if you don't listen to anything, you got to listen to this, and that was Robert Svoboda.
You did a podcast with him?
Hmm?
You're talking about that's a podcast you did?
Yeah, I was so
That's your
turned
favorite
on
one?
by it that of the recent few months, 6 months. Yeah.
I'm about halfway in that Agora book.
Oh.
Yeah, I haven't finished it quite yet, but I'm halfway.
Well, there's 3 books.
Yeah, it's 3. I'm halfway the first one.
Halfway the first one. So the
Yeah.
third one is about karma, and his guru, Vimalananda, the Agori, his definition of that put into, because these things can't really be bound by language, but his languaging of that, of what that is, was, to me, it was spectacular. And Robert's ability to really get it into a little bit more plain speak for people.
Was he around with you guys, or he's just...
He was around at the same time, but he was not with us.
He was in
with
his own little
Maharaji.
thing.
Yeah, he was...
With Vimalananda?
But it was mid-70s. He was with Vimalananda, mid-late 70s, I believe. And, yeah, those books are... first of all, of course, they're
pretty crazy.
incredible. Talk about you, like maybe that's long gone because it's been so many months since we did the thing about skepticism. But, yeah, talk about the outlandish, miraculous
Oh, there's
shit
lots of
that
crazy
happened
stuff
to
in
me.
there. I was shaking my head through a lot of it, but it's still good. Like there was one part in the book, in the first book, where they're talking about him and this guy are like battling each other. Him and this old man are battling each other to raise corpses. Who can raise the corpse first? And I think the old guy actually just died, and the other guy won because the other guy just died of sheer panic and terror.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah, no. That's it's the left-hand path.
The left-hand path.
Tantra.
Yeah, jeez.
Yeah. But when you have somebody like Vimalananda, which seems to be, and Robert is a right-on, fantastic, straight-ahead, honest guy. Period. So I believe everything that he's written in this book. I get it. I mean, some of that's due to the fact that we were with Neem Karoli Baba, and these things happened all the time.
Yeah,
Not outlandish as corpses, and raising corpses and shit like that. But Maharaji did stuff beyond that, even that even be more difficult to not have a little bit of.
So what is that? Like, is it black magic or something? That's kind of what the Agori stuff is in a way.
You could call it that, but it really.
I mean, it's a limited way. It's a limited way to look at it, but
he was totally a white tantric. In other words, he was doing it for the right reasons. He was doing it out of love. He was doing it out of caring and compassion and so on. So the fact that it's a very, shall we say, unique path that is for very few, I would say, in this age that we're in now of Kali Yuga, but still, his intentions were pure. So that's the whole difference.
Yeah, I'm really interested in the Agori stuff. I really want to go, and I have a friend that I buy some stuff from that I saw on the internet that lives in Varanasi. He has like a wholesale shop or something, and he was like, "Oh, I'll take you to an Agori ashram here." I was like, "Okay, we'll see what's up." I would like to get myself into some of those crazy rituals.
Just don't go on the other side of the Ganges.
Yeah, the other side, right?
Yeah, which is where I saw a TV show. This guy takes people around the world. He go and finds different things. I forget the name of it, but this was about finding Agoris in India by Benares, and he was on the other side of the river, and this guy was, pulling poop out of his ass and giving it to him as prasad. What is that crazy stuff? I don't know what it was, but I would say it would be hard to find a pure doing it for the right reasons Agori at this point. And you know what? You've already met somebody you don't even need that kind of stuff.
Yeah, why don't we talk about that guy?
Excuse me?
You're talking about who we met, who we don't need any of that stuff for?
Yeah.
We should talk about that guy.
Yeah, Jungle Baba. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like maybe you could share the story of how... I mean, maybe briefly you could share the story of how you met Neem Karoli, but the story of how you met the Jungle Babas really far out, and I think a lot of people would find that interesting.
Well, Maharaji, that was simple. Ramdas, shall we say? I mean, me and 4 billion other people, basically, right? In one way or another. Now, there were people who came and met Maharaji physically without Ramdas, but not many. In fact, one day Maharaji himself said, when that story of Ramdas threw a plate of food at one of the Westerners, and he got really uptight, and Maharaji called us all up and said, what's wrong with him? Oh, he cannot stand a dharma, in us, because we were always grasping and trying to get to be with Maharaji the closest. You'd throw someone else down on the pavement to get, it's that kind. He couldn't stand it anymore. And Maharaji said, you don't know who this is. None of you would have got here without him. That's what, straight out, exactly that. He didn't make those kind of just flat out statements, except about the one. So there was a few people, but most of us did get there through him, and it was because seeing the light in his eyes and feeling his honesty. There
he is, there.
Yeah, it just got windy. It's trust. That's the whole thing. So we had the trust to do that. With the Jungle Baba, it was, the story is that it's a long story, though. You sure you want to hear this?
I think it's a great story.
Okay. Well, it starts with an Indian couple who lived in New Jersey, and this man's father and grandfather were close devotees of Maharaji. His father actually was a high-up government official in Indira Gandhi's cabinet back in the day, in the 80s. So they would go back and forth from Jersey to India for family. And there was a young man in his early 20s who was a driver for his aunt. And when he met our friend from New Jersey, he met Maharaji because they were devotees of Neem Karoli Baba. So he became a devotee, Maharaji just sucked him in, and he became, and then he started driving them whenever they were in Delhi. And one time after he had left them off to go back to America, within some short period of time, I think after that, he was going home, and nearby his home, not far from the Delhi airport, he actually, there was just a little strip mall thing, and these stores that sell everything, like Indian 7-Elevens. And he saw Baba with a bunch of people around him, and he went to the edge of the crowd just to look. It was unusual, dreadlock jungle Baba, just not naked, but just with a lungi or something. And he went back the next day, and he went by there. He never went up, but the next day he got a little closer because he was interested, and it was just a hangout, and people were coming, and the Baba was talking to them and stuff like that. And by the end of the day, the Baba goes, points at him and goes, "I'm coming home with you." He goes, "Me? No, you can't do that. I don't have room. I live in a small apartment with 2 other drivers." "Nope, I'm coming." And there was all obviously people that were his devotees that could host him at a very swanky, large Delhi house. So the Baba gets in the car, off they go, gets up to the apartment, opens the door, and since he had a puja with Maharaji's picture, because that was his guru, as soon as you open the door, you could see it, and the Baba went, "Neem Karoli Baba, Maha Maha Purush, the highest of souls." And this driver goes, "You know Maharaji?" "Yeah." And he sit down and he tells them all these stories about Maharaji, like he knew about Maharaji, and he couldn't believe it. So he called our friend in New Jersey, who, by the way, had been out of touch with Maharaji internally until he met Krishna Das in New York, which is another kind of cute part to the whole story. So Krishna Das was very much honored by him, and they were very close. Anyhow, so driver calls him and he goes, "Yeah, I just met this Baba. You got to come over here. He knows Maharaji." So sure enough, he came back a month or 2 later and went to see this Baba. And on the way, they got there, and basically it's a story about how this man's wife had a long-standing desire to go to Chitrakoot, and nobody knew this except her husband. So when they sat down, "Do you want to go to Chitrakoot?" One of those, prescient things. And he took them to Chitrakoot. Maybe not that time, but he said, "I'm taking you to Chitrakoot." So this was a huge thing for them. And they were like, "Wow, okay." And he's totally loving and affectionate and down to earth. And he told Krishnadas, and Krishnadas then, just by the tone of it, he knew this was a real thing. And he went over. But it was a couple of, and he met, and the same thing happened. He had Baba did something that nobody could know about. It was around one of his kirtans, actually.
Oh, I know that story. Krishnadas was walking up to see Baba for the very first time, and Baba was singing a song on the harmonium that was the same melody that Krishnadas had made up. That was not an Indian melody.
Not exactly, actually.
Well, that's what I heard.
But what it is exactly is that he was using in this kirtan, which may have had the same melody, but that wasn't the point. The point was, it was to Hanuman, and he was using Baba Hanuman, and no Indians don't do that in their. That's something Krishnadas made up, in as a kind of more Western, not more Western. It just was meaningful to him. So anyhow, that happened, and then there was the kind of space that was both of these people had, our friend in Jersey and Krishnadas, of course, had met 1 billion Babas in India, and they hadn't met anybody quite like him that even came anywhere near to the kind of feeling of being around Maharaji, of space and time and timelessness and all that. Not that they're in any remote way the same, but there's a part of every one of these kind of beings that is the same. I mean, for sure, it's the same. There can't be anything separate. So then so in terms of me, Krishnadas told me about it and said, "You got to go there." And so I trust him 100%. If this is again, Ramdas, how we got to Maharaji, I trusted him. Krishnadas, he told me to go. I trusted him, and I couldn't find him the first year I was in India after I knew. I mean, I found him, and I'm in the jungle, and it was rainy season. And he was like, "Forget about it. You can't come down here." So it was then again into the following spring, so with me, there was no prescience. He didn't say anything like that. Although later on, something like that did happen. Not that that's proof of anything, but obviously there was an indication of that thing of knowing that's caring, like knowing, antarayami means knower of all hearts. Now, I have any indication of that has with it, a wonderful caring aspect. It cares enough to share with you something that's so deep and only you are aware of. It's a touching thing. Nothing like that happened. I just sat down, and it's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I know you," kind of a thing. And he said, "Yeah, I must have said to him, 'You seem pretty familiar,' or something, slightly cheeky." And he said, "Yeah, we've known each other for lifetimes." So I kind of knew that. And the other thing I knew is that Maharaji had designed this. This was just perfect timing, and I knew at the time, right away, that next generation people who never did see the physical Maharaji, not that it was necessary, or is it necessary, yet it's nice to have a physical representation of the possibility that you can actually touch, just of everything that's represented by, as Ramdas called, when he talks about soul, love, unconditional love, joy, wisdom, compassion, all of those things. To see that is very inspiring. So I knew that was going to happen, and then he told somebody, "Yeah, Raghu's going to be my radio in America." So here we are doing another podcast around, and I've done a few of them, and certainly with Dakota and I have done when we were in India together last fall. So
what is it for you about this jungle Baba? Because you've been around a bunch of Babas and a bunch of sadhus and stuff like that. What is it about him that's different from any of the other sadhus you could just kind of skip a rock to in India?
Well, ultimately, it's all ineffable. It's hard to really say that thing. I mean, I could say a bunch of words, that I just said. But the biggest thing is just to be, at this point, I had whatever I needed in Maharaji, and I have, so that he sent this, there must be a reason that I'm in contact with this being, and to me, it's an opportunity for myself, it's about getting out of the me. When I'm there, I'm not thinking about myself. I'm not as attached to the role of who I think, or the identity of who I think I am, and the roles that I keep. That's a very freeing thing, to just spend, a week doing that, right? Like we did, sitting on a rock overlooking a jungle. All we did was sing kirtan, and great chai, good food, nice resting, It's free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really nice. For me, it was just so liberating just to watch him interact with life. Like when I reflect on my time with him, and it's not like he gave us any kind of like esoteric wisdom that was like, you know, like some sort of lightning bolt of realization or something, but it was just watching him interact with life. It really helped me understand the concept of Leela. And just like,
I agree.
It's like what Lucian, in the podcast that we did with Lucian said that he has no inner judge. There's no inner critic going on. He's just completely engaged in whatever's going on.
He's
Right.
Mr. Be Here Now.
Yeah, he's
He
be here
is.
now. So when you watch him, you kind of are forced to be here now through him.
Yeah, right. And that's
Like a
the
tuning fork.
magic. That's the real magic
Yeah.
of somebody who's obviously through karma and tapasya in that place. You know, there's no fear. There's no separation. So yeah, it's just swim in that thing. Well, is pretty graceful.
It's gonna be interesting when he comes to America. I'm interested to see how that plays out.
If he ever comes.
I think he will. Who knows when though?
You were telling me, and you showed me that clip of him saying that it's very important for him to go see Ram Dass.
Yeah.
I don't know the way I heard it either. Him giving darshan to Ram Dass, Ram Dass giving darshan.
No, yeah,
to
he said it was very important for him to have darshan of Ram Dass because
Yeah.
Ram Dass goes, no darshan.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty
No, he does say it
beautiful
like
being.
that. Yeah. Who knows? Who knows? But ultimately, it's good to emphasize that the only thing that's when you talk about needed or in relation to spiritual path and being able to live in a way that's not in fear and paranoia and anger and anxiety, which is really what we'd most like to give and share with people, which is the other reason that I was interested in this Jungle Baba, because a lot of people have, and they have right to this moment, I can see what you just said is a gift that you got, so I'm motivated to, have more people have that experience. But ultimately, it's, I did a podcast with Ram Dass just the other day, just came out, on generosity. Is that what it was called?
Right.
Yeah. I just think that's a very important concept. But in this thing, he was also asked the question about what he took back from Maharaji, or what we did, that is now filtered into these next generations, all the way down to now. And he talked about one thing. The first thing he said was to see the ability to see we can expand. He used the word expand, Wasn't that terrific?
That's far out.
And I said, you mean expand beyond our limitations? That Maharaji absolutely was emblematic of gone beyond any limitations. So I think that's one of the most crucial things. And he also said, Ram Dass, in a different part of the same conversation, everybody has a guru. You need to have a guru. In the guru prayer in India is Mata Pita Tuma Meri, you are my mother, you are my father, the guru, you are my brother, you are my sister, you are my everything.
Ram Dass said something too that I thought was interesting. He said, this was at the retreat, just less than Maui. He said, you and your guru decided to do spiritual work together. That's what all this happening is. He said, you guys decided to do this.
Had come to me in a trip. I had that come to me in a trip before I went to see Jungle Baba. I was pulled to look at this puja table I'd set up after I'd kind of contemplated existence as being kind of just a formless illusion of what we think it to be. And so I was thinking like, well, where's Guru sitting there? And it told me illusion as well, but like a golden chain that you hold on to that you'll know, like it'll just you'll be free when you're free completely, you know.
Did you ever tell that story about your dream with the Baba in the picture, setting down the picture?
Oh yeah, that happened shortly after this trip, actually, maybe a month later. But yeah, so like I got pulled from where I was sitting thinking about this Maya stuff, and then I go look at the puja table I set up, and all the saints and murtis on there had a little white light above it, and I'm scanning over and seeing all these lights, and I try to look at Neem Karoli Baba, and I can't see his photo, and I look to the next one, and I can see Shyam Sundar Das's photo. Oh, I said his name. Jungle Baba's photo.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, everything else was blinding by the light above his thing, and all I could see was his picture, and a voice came in my head, and it said those exact words of, we agreed to do spiritual work in this lifetime.
Who said that? Who said that?
The God voice in my head.
Oh, but represented by Maharaji?
By who I was interpreting to be my guru. I didn't know, you know, I was just thinking like, this is my guru talking to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm looking at a picture of Jungle Baba, and that voice says, we agreed to do spiritual work in this lifetime. Far out.
Yeah. Well, to me, the beauty is this is the big Maharaji, you know, is what's going on
it's
here.
It's trippy.
Right.
Yeah. I was tripping out over it at the retreat, just seeing all these connections of like the ripple of the echo of Maharaji. I'm just like, oh my God, how did I get thrown into this somehow?
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And then something correct. So I was just having all these realizations and just synchronizations of how all this kind of got thrown into my life. Here I am now. I'm in Maui. I'm sitting in front of Ram Dass, and I'm just sitting there. And it's the end of the night. I think it might be the last day. And it's Krishna Das is doing kirtan, and I'm just sitting there like meditating with my eyes closed. And someone walks up to me and just like disrupts my meditation, and they hand me an apple.
No.
Some random person. Just no one I've talked to the whole retreat, and then they just walked away. And I was just like, God, it couldn't be any more obvious than this.
That's funny.
Same person gave me an apple.
Did he?
Yeah, and then after the kirtan was over, everyone was praying and quiet, and I took a huge bite out of the apple. And it broke the silence.
That's so funny.
But the guy who was giving out those apples is a really cool person. You know, he's like I don't know if he's a professional, but he's been a rock drummer for years.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and he's also Maharaji running around giving out prasad to everybody.
Wasn't aware of that at all for
Yeah.
some reason. By the way, you talked about before you, or I don't know if it was part of the dream or you had this understanding around the illusion, and you know the guru is illusion. I forget what you said.
Yeah, it's like a golden chain. Like you can understand that everything's Maya. Anything in form is Maya. So even your guru sitting right in front of you is Maya, and there's some part of you where you're still one and always connected, but you can get so lost in the shiny objects. You know what I mean? My theory is get completely lost in that big shiny object called the guru. And don't worry, they will take you through to the undivided. If whatever, I'm KK Shad devotee. I've been talking about this to people actually. You know what his thing is? I just want to come back into a body so I can continue to fight with the siddhas. Okay, who would say anything like that? Only KK. In other words, continue to have the leela with the siddhas. Yeah.
And you could mix in with it because you know KK and how much all he does is share, right?
Right.
There's nothing else going on, never has been in his life. So I'm his devotee. I told him that the other day, he laughed at me. Yeah. Yeah. Or like Sri Ramakrishna, who was a big deal for me.
Right.
Where he was taken by another teacher into the undivided Advait. And he said, no, I don't want to go. I want to be able to worship Ma, period. I'm not interested. So, yeah. But so that of course is I'm being slightly facetious on one level, but not really. At the same time, I think if you get too lost into the thing of it's all Maya, so, you know, I mean, You don't know that. I don't know that. He don't know that. There's no way we know anything about that reality. So hold on to that blanket for dear life is my only advice to anybody. You can meditate your ass off and chant the name, And that's another reason why, talk about Jungle Baba. I'm not interested in, that is my, I do sit on a daily, but meditate, but chanting. And so what do we do there? We just chant all day. And after a while, and not even after a while, like you're hooked in. It's
Yeah, for me, what chanting feels like is like cleaning my room. It's like just getting all the clutter and just kind of aligning it to just one simple thing. It's just cleaning it all up.
And it's an easy alignment. Yeah. That's the thing. They're right. Hare Krishna people, right? The ISKCON people, they're right. They're fundamentally right, even though they're fundamentalists. There is only the way. Chant the name, Maha Mantra. Yeah.
I was going to say, the way you describe that's kind of interesting because in like psych wards, when people are schizo and dealing with episodes or whatever, they describe like ways of understanding what's happening to their mind as like walking down hallways. And what are you doing when you're singing Hare Krishna over and over and over again? You're not going anywhere, There's no hallway, there's no like neuron pathway being formed. It's just a circle, just going around and around and around. And you really can connect with your inner bliss.
Yeah.
When you're not so caught.
I think what mantra means, mantra, man means mind, yeah? Tra, I think tra is like to deliver, I think is what tra means. And then from like tra, we get English words like transport and like transcend.
Traverse.
So it's like to transcend the mind. That's kind of how
Yeah, right. That's good.
Yeah.
I've heard it. Oh, I was going to say, I've heard mantra described as like a shield, and your mind is like a sword. So you can use your mind to cut through reality, and the mantra is the shield to protect you as you go through.
I think that's true too. I just wanted to go back to the guru thing because what I was talking about was when we talk about going to India and being with this kind of a being, or what happened with us with Maharaji, and whether or not any one person is supposed to do that, right? It's not something you just decide to do and you go do. You might think that you're doing that, but there's a lot of proclivities, samskaras, to get you to that point, karmic tendencies. So when you acknowledging that there is a guru is a big thing, and you're the perfect example, Dakota. Because you had you were just having fun, basically. And then I think in the middle of that trip, at some point, you got turned around, especially being with Siddhima. There's something that clicked. And so there's something that does click. So, there is that thing. Whatever, words don't really express it, but I am directly connecting with it. And at that point, you start to just let go. And if you're supposed to be in India, you'll be in India doing that thing. And now, what is the that major transforming moment that allows that to happen is so many different things: psychedelics, reading a book, watching a movie, you don't remember that.
But being born leads you to all those things,
Just getting the body. Yeah, you can't. None of this can happen without a body. That all of the traditions say, mostly the Tibetans very much so. So, but what I'm trying to say is, you don't necessarily need to go to India to meet anyone, but if it's supposed to happen, you will be taken by that inner guide, which you may not even identify as a physical guru that was, or that is coming, or that is here now, but it will happen. You'll be, and the way to get there is trust. I guess that's the point I really wanted to make, because that's what happened. It leads back to the original question. What was it like, meeting Maharaji? How did that happen, meeting this Jungle Baba? And trust was the absolute ingredient that led me to Maharaji and, of course, the Jungle Baba.
I have to say, I feel like trust played a big role in our relationship, I really feel like there were so many times, like, when I was first getting to know you, when I first started, where I just like have, I'd do something wrong and you'd like get angry or something. And, you know,
work-wise.
Yeah. And, you know, a lot of times with people, when someone gets angry with me, my initial response always is like, oh, it's like lighting a lighter, you know, it's like, I want to get angry back. But with you, I trusted that you've been doing spiritual practice and you took this shit seriously, and that if you fucked up, like you were actually trying to be the best you could be, you know what I mean? So I always tried to I was always more mindful actually when I was talking to you, because I trusted you more than I trusted the average person. And so that, I feel like that did numbers for like connecting with you on a deeper level in a lot of ways, and just being more comfortable and all kinds of things.
Yeah,
really pays off.
Yeah, you know how you ended up here and meeting at the retreat, you know, your whole story, which you should interview him for his story.
I know, right?
I mean, his story is incredible. And it just, because
it seems like everyone's got a crazy story.
Yeah,
here.
everyone does. We all do. But his really does. Well, they all speak to that same thing I'm talking about. There is something inside. It's called a guru, but you can call it intuition. You can call it a trust with something that you don't identify with in terms of your mind and your emotions. Something deeper, and that. Once you start letting go into that, it takes you where you need to go. And it brought him to my house, where I said, what do you do? Oh, wow. Okay. Well, hey, do you want to do a little something? And then suddenly we started working together. And then, you know, within the work, we were communicating about the path, basically. So it was perfect. He needed to do that. And he absolutely let go into it, knowing it was the right thing. You just called it trust.
Yeah.
Why do you think all these gurus and these teachers like this are born in the East? Like, how come we don't have so many here in the West? Or like even
I honestly think that's going to change.
And I mean like Maharaji, like these like great siddhas that are like.
Yeah.
You know.
How come? Because India has been a host to that tradition.
You think that's what I think too? You think it's just kind of they just have a
we're just
kind
newbies.
Of,
we're you know
born
we're
into that.
Yeah, we're hosting Trump.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the difference.
Yeah.
I mean, we did have Obama, who is a way more enlightened being, to say the very least. But still, you know, it's a.
Or Trump's just completely enlightened and he's just waking all of us up through some brutal honesty.
The reason I know that's not true.
The reason you do. Come on, you can't have many reasons.
If you listen to anything he says and then write it down verbatim, it's just a crazy person.
Yeah,
like,
or he's just reflecting to us ourselves. So he's like, look at you.
Well, to some degree that's true, or he wouldn't have been elected, and us thinking it's those people out there elected him. We created something to allow this all to happen.
It's allowing the conversation to happen.
Yeah,
Trump
right.
is.
So, I think in South America and Mexico, there have been brujos that are certainly very...
What do they call them?
Brujo. B-R-U-J-O.
Like
in Mexico would be... No, they would be shaman.
Like a shaman?
Yeah. Whether they had that level of enlightenment, I have no idea.
Well, it's kind of the same states, I think. Like, I feel like the psychedelic state and all that's what these shamans are working with more so. They're going in.
The states and levels of consciousness are all the same.
Yeah.
There's no different. What's different in the Indians put it in terms of what a siddha is, and we've talked a lot about this with KK. There's no I anymore whatsoever, and it's the ability of a being to live in the Advait and in the duality at the same time in a body. That is apparently not something that happens to...
And you think you're just born like that?
And you got to be born like that. You can't...
And then the Jungle Baba, there are two people I can think of who claim to have been born like that.
Well, let's parse that a little bit, okay?
Well,
First of all, Ananda Mahima is a whole other thing.
Yeah, there's a difference, I guess.
And as far as Jungle Baba, and he has said, I know the question, how did your gurus and did your tapas or whatever, did all of that impact who you are today? And he said, no, I came in like this. And for some reason, and that doesn't mean he's a siddha or anything. He wouldn't say that. He's never said anything. He doesn't reference himself. He does not reference himself. So he would never say that. And the truth is, we have no idea.
Well, we asked him, didn't we? I think I asked him if he had any cities, and he kind of diverted the question, or at least the translator didn't translate it back.
Well, we know he's done it, and he's done it to some of us. So, using powers of prescience for sure. But he's done, there's stories of what he's done for people who were either very sick or not even alive.
Yeah, I've heard those stories. I haven't heard it from him.
But they're nothing. It's just about the love and Ram. That's all there is, and that's really the truth. So I wouldn't put him into that thing of, in terms of the rarity. He says, the Jungle Baba said, in the last century or two, I think 150 years, he told my friend from Jersey, he said, there have been 3 siddhas that have been the siddhas, whatever the adjective might have been, I don't know, but obviously the purest examples of siddhas, and one was Shirdi Sai Baba, who's you see everywhere in India. And he said Neem Karoli Baba, and one other Baba whose name I don't remember, because my friend, and we all have heard of a lot of Babas, we had not heard of this Baba. So it may be one of those Babas that does not come out of the Himalayas that he happened to know. And maybe it's another name for Babaji, which is supposed to be, the avatar for, and the guru of Lahiri Mahasaya, then Yukteswar and the Yogananda. That whole lineage. So yeah, it's rare.
I've been thinking about, when you have a siddha like this, maybe a reason that they don't just, start coming out into the public and like trying to change the world, and what Jesus did. He got himself crucified. It's like you push against the universe. These people know that it's going to push back, and they don't really have control of things like that.
Or it's like what Maharaji did and kind of just played the puppeteer and just had everyone else do it for him.
Yeah, and he didn't necessarily do things like that. Like the smallpox got cured because of this, what he pushed people to do. And
that was just all, these people, this is all just stuff that they know what's happening and what will happen. Right. And they just absolutely encourage it. And push it along, and push your karma individually. Push it along. That is what they do. And he of course did extraordinary things, Maharaji, and he would say, I don't do anything, God does it all, or I do it all. There's no more I. There's no reference point the way we know it. So that's the. So yeah, to answer the question, I think that India is such a host for so many thousands of years, where beings like this can be, and they get taken care of in the way that like Ananda Mai Ma was just a young woman who came into this and needed care. They needed to put people around her so that she could share, in India.
Because they would have just put her in a mental institution.
Here, she was going out, just singing.
She spun in circles for like 2 years straight, just singing.
Really? I never knew that.
Yeah, I read that. She was just like dancing, doing that twirl thing.
If you can imagine.
I'm sure not 24/7, but
right.
A lot.
But doing a lot of that. Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
If you can imagine, I was in Benares with my father, my brother, and my future wife. And someone said, Anandamaya Ma ashram is just up the river. So we took a boat, we got out in the boat, and it's a long stairway all the way up to the top of the ashram to get into the door. And we went in, and we hear this chanting going on, a female voice. And we followed it. And there she was, Anandamaya Ma, with 1 or 2 people singing Jai Bhagavan. You know what Krishnadas does at the end of Jaya Bhagavan, Jaya Bhagavan. She was singing in such a sweet voice. Sometimes I think, how can I ever reproduce this kind of a lifetime? You know, if they'd be so kind to get another body to continue this.
It'd be pretty cool to you know, have a guarantee slip come back in.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's by virtue of the good karmas you perform, you know.
Yeah.
That's how that works. So.
Do you think it works like that? You think we do good and bad karmas and that dictates what happens, or do you think there is just action?
Well, just think that everything that happens, like in this plane of reality,
yeah,
if you punch me rather than hug me, that's likely to have a ripple.
But is my punch...
that's the grossest thing.
But is me punching you due to the universe just starting? Like that was just predetermined when the universe started?
No, that's too intellectual.
You think?
If the punching, the universe just started. What does that mean?
Well,
you wouldn't be here when the universe
it's
started.
like the universe started, and then that was like the first
action.
Yeah, and
that was
the
first
only
karma.
thing is
the action, as long it doesn't matter.
And the reaction
universe
led to me
started or
punching
not.
you.
The action, if it's got attachment of any sort, it's got anything going on. Yeah, Krishna said, Arjun, do your dharma without attachment. You've got to fight your family. Yeah. Okay. So that's the reality. So, he not doing it was creating karma, which is a little bit of what you're trying to say as well. If he did not go fight, he was creating karma for himself because he was living in ignorance.
So, is karma, does it carry on the other planes? Like, say you die and you have... I
haven't the slightest idea about anything.
Okay, so theoretically, from what maybe you've studied, it's like, say you die and you have all these impressions from what you've done in your life you had just lived, and you carry that into the bardo.
Yeah.
The next bardo. And so you have these things are going to come up, like your deepest subconscious fears and attachments, and all that's going to come up. And then what you do with that, I believe, is probably going to have a lot to do with what happens for your next big incarnation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's what we're doing right now, ain't we?
Yeah, that's like, I think what doing these works is going to help with.
I mean, the fact that you've come into, we have come into the realization that there is a deeper place that represents who we are rather than what we usually carry around as our identity, our minds and emotions. That's a huge thing right there. And right there, and then you have really making a huge jump into creating good samskaras, right? Because you can't, because you're connected. It's like taking acid, knowing you're connected with everything and everybody and everything that breathes. So you can't take fucked up actions the way you could before, you know? It's the same thing. And so the more that happens, the more that you are creating impressions that will eventually will hopefully blotto out the fear and the anger.
A part of me feels like we're not in control of any of that. That all that's given to us from our parents and their parents, and then just all the way back.
No, but there's something beyond parents. There's something, he's saying these impressions, it's whatever. It's family is only one thing. There's many different aspects.
Well, family
of
and culture.
These impressions. Yeah.
So what are we actually in control of if all that's given to us?
Well, that's
as far as action goes.
Tough question. Control of, but that's why I say when you align, and what Ram Dass said in this podcast, when you align yourself with the Guru, and you are surrendered, and not in the way folks out there. We're not talking about giving up your money and or willpower, we're not talking about the Rajneesh community in Oregon. Okay, we're not talking that. That's not real surrender. And that's a whole other subject that would be very difficult to get into. But what's true, which is you're not surrendering to anything else. It's to the deepest part of yourself. So once that happens, your perspective entirely changes, so that you can do less and less of the kind of impressions that are going to hamstring you in the next bardo, or in the next plane of consciousness, or back in a body. And yeah, you're going to get what you need. You're going to get what the family that you need in that moment, that to confront and clean up that stuff. Hopefully, as it says in the Chalisa, do the Chalisa and Ram Ram, so you get born into a good family. So all of those things are important.
Because if you carry your attachments from your previous family, you might reincarnate into the same bloodline.
Well, we probably are very limited in terms of
who knows.
Which would make sense for the way the ancestors work, for calling upon the ancestors. If your line of spirituality is in that,
right,
you could probably have some control in a little sense and tailor where you
maybe I just feel like the universe is so big.
Control, that's the word you brought up.
Control.
Yeah, and control is
maybe an illusion.
Well, would control?
Well, again, you like to go into that Advaiti kind of place of illusion and all. I go back to
if I'm doing an action, then am I in control of that action? If I punch you, am I the one that's deciding to punch you, or is that because of just
no? You are.
My parents piss me off, and
well, that's all part of the makeup of it. Yeah, for sure. But you're taking that action. You got to be responsible for that. It's what Maharaji told Ram Dass when he said, "Are karma and grace the same? Action and grace the same?" And Maharaji said, I'm not talking about that in public. And later he sent a message to Ram Dass, and Ram Dass said, I don't understand that. I can't imagine if they're not. And later Maharaji sent a message to Ram Dass. Ram Dass and I understand each other quite well. So Ram Dass took that to mean, okay, it is that, but people will just use that as spiritual materialism. Right, which is
wait, say it again.
And it could also.
I'll tell you the story. The next part of the story will explain it. I went to Siddhima and I said, I told her this story. Are karma and grace the same? Taking action, or if grace meaning everything, it's all predestined, so there's nothing to do. It's kind of what you were saying there. I'm not doing anything. It's all done. And I said, so Ma, what is the reality? She said, that is true, but nobody can understand that. It is not understandable with the mind. So, you must take action, period. So you do your practices, you try not to pop people in the face, you do all of this stuff. And yes, it comes to a time when you will, I'm sure, in a billion, trillion, gazillion lifetimes, where there is no subject-object anymore. So there's no doing or not doing. A
lot to look forward to. A lot of experience.
Yes. Yeah. So given that we have a lot of this to continue to do, I really do believe there is no other attitude that you can adopt except, because, and for the most simple reasons, you don't want to hurt anybody. You do love people. You want to be kind. You want to be compassionate. We do want that. That is part of the deepest part of ourselves, as well as acknowledging and using mindfulness for all the bullshit. All of our family past, all of our wounded selves, all of our neurotic.
That's all part of the path too. That was all that stuff.
Yeah,
that's all. That all helps us have those realizations to begin with. All like just little stepping stones.
Yeah. Yeah. So, a little mindfulness and sing the name. We'll be okay. We'll be okay.
Well, we've been doing it. We've done it before, probably. Yeah. We were okay then.
Well, it's fun to do it with nice friends.
Yeah.
It is.
A good soul pod.
You find a good soul pod. Yeah. Yeah. I feel really lucky for the people that I'm so close to from the time I was in India back in the early 70s to now. It's an unbelievable thing to me. I mean, you've seen it,
Blows my mind.
Yeah. Okay, are we finished?
We can finish now if you like. It seems like a good time to finish.
Yeah. I have to have my chai.
All right, let's get some chai.
And one day how about for your podcast, we can do a chai recipe kind of thing.
We could.
We should do recipes
There
and
we go.
stuff.
Yeah.
We're going to make music. The intros are going to
Nice.
be updated frequently with
Nice. Yeah.
whatever we make,
Yeah. Why don't you record? We're doing kirtan tonight. You could record a little and put it in your thing.
I could.
Nice to be here with you. So nice.
See you guys.
Ram Ram.
Ram Ram.
Barano Raghubara Vimala Jasu Lodaya Kupalacha Udihina Tanu Chanike Sumiram Pavana Kumar Alavudi Vidya Dehu Mohi Arahu Kale Sabikara Siyavara Ramachan Hadate Sarana De Hanumana Gyana Guna Sagara De Kapi Sativaloka Ramaduta Tulita Baladama Andani Buddha Bhavana Sutana Mahavira Vikrama Bajrangi Umati Nivara Sumati Kesam Anchana Varana Viraja Subesa Ananda Kundara Kuchita Kesam Atabhadra Dutta Viraje Kande Mudha Neo Sade Sankara Suvara Kesari Nanda Pratapa Mahadagavan Viryavana Guniyati Chatu Ramakaja Karibeko Atu Rabu Charitra Sunibeko Rasiya Ramalakana Sita Manabasiya Sumarupa Darisiya Indika Bikatarupa Darilam Kadara Ramachandra ke Gaj Sangare Ayata Jivana Lakana Jiyai Shri Raghuvira Harasi Oralai Raghupati ki Nirvahata Garai Tuma Mama Priya Bharatai Samabhai Asavadan Tumaro Dasaga Asakai Shri Pati Kandalaga Sanakadika Brahma Vimunisa Narada Sharada Saitahisa Ramakubera Digapala Jahante Abhikovida Kahe Sake Kahante Tuma Upakara Sugriva Ikina Rama Milaya Rajapadadina Tumaro Mandra Vibhishanamana Lanke Sarvai Sabadagajan Duga Sahasra Jajana Paravana Lilatai Madhura Palajan Prabhu Mudrika Mele Mukhamari Daladilangi Gayacharadanai Durga Makaja Jagata Ke Jete Sugaganura Tumare Te Rama Duare Tumara Kaware Hotanagya Milupe Sare Savasukalare Tumare Sharana Tumara Chakaka Huko Dharana Apana Teja Samaro Ape Dino Loka Hankate Kampe Bhuta Pisacha Nikatana Hina Mahavira Javanama Sunama Nasero Gare Sabapira Japata Nirandana Hanumatavira Sankata Se Hanumana Chura Manakrama Bhajana Dhyana Dola Tava Pararama Tapasvi Raja के काज सकल तुम साध और मनोरथ जो कोई लाए सोई अमित जीवन फल पाए चारों युग पर ताप तुम्हारे हे पर सिद्ध जिया साधु संत के तुम्हारा को असुर निकंदर राम दुलारे अस सिद्ध निधि के दान असबर दीन जानकी माता राम रसायन तुम्हारे पास सदा रहो रघुपति के दास तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावे जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे अंत काल रघुबर पुर जाए जहाँ जन्म हरि राख कहारे और देवता चीतन डरे हनुमत से सर्व सुख करे अंकत कते निधे सब पीर जो सुमिरे हनुमत बलबीर जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई कृपा करो गुरुदेव की नाय जो सत बार पाठ कर को छूत ही बंदी महासुख हो तो यह पर हनुमान चालीसा ओय सिद्ध साधी गौरी तुलसीदास सदा हरि चे नाथ हृदय महदेव भवन तनय संगत हरना मंगल मूर्ति रूप राम लखन सीता सहित हृदय सब सुर बसियावा रामचंद्र पर जय शरण मंगल मूर्ति मारुत नंद सकल मंगल मूल निखंड मंगल मूर्ति मारुत नंद सकल मंगल मूल निखंड हे राम जय राम जय जय राम 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 राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम हे 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 राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम सियावर रामचंद्र की जय। Akandamandalakaram Vyaptam Jena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Deva Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Anamulam Guru Murti Ojamulam Guru Padam Mantramulam Guru Vakyam Mokshamulam Guru Kripa Nami Sri Guru Pada Palavam Smarami Sri Guru Nama Nirmalam Tasyami Sri Guru Rupa Sundaram Shri Nomi Sri Guru Kirti Abutam Jai Gurudev Jai Jai Gurudev Jai Gurudev Jai Jai Gurudev Jai Gurudev Jai Jai Gurudev Jai Gurudev Jai Satya Gurudev Tvameva Mata Chapita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhu Chasaka Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Syavar Ramachandra Ki Jai Shri Panasuta Hanuman Ki Jai Umapati Mahadev Ki Jai Shri 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 Bhavaninkar Sant Maharaj Ki Jai Guru Maharaj Ki Jai Sham Sundar Das Baba Ki Jai Shri Ma Ki Jai Vindhyavasini Durga Mai Ki Jai Sankata Devi Ma Ki Jai Lakshmi Devi Ki Jai Hara Hara Hara